Hey everybody, welcome. I'm Daniel G. Garza. This is another episode of Put It Together live stream. It is Saturday, December 28th, 2024. It's the end of the year. It's coming. Whether we like it or not, it's already here. It's been an amazing 2024, and I'm so excited that we thought last week was our last show, but no, we had one more week of shows coming up before we end 2024, and I'm really excited to talk to our guest. But I want to remind y'all that we do have next week. Make sure you check your schedules for the Cardivo's New Year's predictions for all of your zodiac signs. So make sure you check this out. I think this year, we haven't decided yet, I think this year we're going to do a recorded version versus a live version, which will be a lot smaller, shorter in time and tighter for you folks. I know it can get a little long, so probably this year we're going to record one and just put it out there, but stay tuned for that. And then all the new things we have coming up. Make Christian and Daniel show, the Goat and Crab and Goat show, and then more Put It Togethers on Saturday. So make sure you stay tuned for that. This week's guest, let me put my glasses on because I need to read. Let me tell you a little bit about her. Celeste London is a self-love narcissist recovery tarot coach and holistic oracle healer, specializing in guiding survivors of narcissistic abuse who are ready to heal and rebuild their lives from the ground up. Through transformative self-love coaching and intuitive tarot reading, she helps clients rediscover their worth, rebuild confidence, and create a foundation of emotional resilience. Drawing on her expertise as a certified natural medicine practitioner, Celeste integrates holistic healing techniques to nurture the mind, body, and spirit. Her compassionate approach empowers survivors to break free from toxic patterns, embrace self-love, and design a fulfilling, authentic life. I hope that doesn't sound like a therapy session today because she seems to fit into everything that I should be working on. So let me bring her to the stage. Celeste, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Daniel.
How are you doing? Happy holidays.
Yes, happy holidays to you.
How is it going for you? Do you celebrate the holidays?
It's kind of peaceful for me, many years I realized that when you're on the spiritual path where you want to raise your level of consciousness, you kind of seem to be a lone lioness. So I tend to be living that kind of life these days, not really into too much crowds or gathering. I call myself an empath. So as I'm getting up there in my age, I'm getting more comfortable spending time and energy with myself.
Gotcha. And they can get a little over. I like gatherings, but I follow your path. It's like after a little while, I'm like, okay, I need to retreat and go back. My partner and I tend to celebrate the Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's. We just order food, get in our pajamas, sit in front of the TV, and just like decompress from everything and disconnect from everything. So, well, thank you for being my final guest of the 2024 season. Thank you for being here. We were trying to think how we know each other, how we met, and did you happen to, while you were in the green room, did you happen to think about how we connected?
I know it was there's a platform called Alignable.
Yes.
And this great gentleman, I really don't ring a bell with his name, but I know he's into digital marketing or something like that. And if I ever get around to, getting in touch to find out his name, he's responsible for putting us together. He knew your personality and my personality. He said, you have to meet this guy, Daniel.
I'm gonna figure it out. I know.
Yeah. Really have
to
about it.
Here it is. It was actually a female, Nicola.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, okay. Nicola introduced us.
Okay.
So Nicola over on Alignable, thank you so much for the introduction.
Thank you.
I do remember our initial phone call, which was like, we got along. I was like, okay, you're coming on my show. Here it is. Here's the date, and let's do this. So thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Before we continue, I forgot to mention thank you to all our friends watching us on Facebook and LinkedIn. If you don't mind sharing this on your page, so that
Yes.
other folks can watch along. If you're watching us on YouTube, scroll down, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell. It'll let you know every time there's a new show on the air. And for
Yes.
those of you watching us on Instagram, although your comments can't be shown on the show, I am keeping an eye on it. So hello to all our Instagram friends that are watching us. So they're out there watching us, and so we're there. So uh, we have a lot of things in common, and I'm very excited to hear your story. So let's get started. Celeste London, tell us how you put it together.
So, why am I called a self love narcissist recovery tarot coach? I came up with the name self love because um, at the young and tender age, I was thrown out of my home at the age of 15 years old, right? So, when a girl has been kind of just exposed to being in the world on her own, that pattern and destruction kind of set me up when I grew up to become an adult to attract certain kinds of relationships, meaning toxic, narcissistic, abusive relationships. And I have attracted those kinds of relationships my whole entire adult life, right? My last relationship was a long distance, narcissistic, abusive relationship. And I learned a lot on the way that they use manipulation or emotional manipulation, gaslighting, confusion, self doubt, compulsive lying, all of the traits that a narcissist has, right? And so, what I realize is since I've been raised by my parents, both my mother and father are narcissists, right? So, I was set up kind of, to be a magnet to attract that kind of relationship. So after going through that journey in my own adult life, I realized that I need to do something. And instead of being disempowered and having this life experience, I choose to empower myself by being a person that's an advocate to help to heal victims who are survivors who have left a narcissistic abusive relationship. And they meet me when they're ready to heal. And also, I work together with a team behind me where we help them to build their lives from the ground up. After a person leaves and comes out of a narcissistic abusive relationship, the abuse is so damaging to your soul that you have to restore your confidence, your self esteem, and your overall self worth.
Gotcha.
So that's where the word self love comes in because I lacked self love based on my life experience as a little girl, based on what happened to me. My whole entire life, I lived in this vibration of low self esteem. And when you have low self esteem, you attract toxic, narcissistic, abusive relationships.
Got you. And we've already started with some questions, so I'm going to
Sure.
thank you to the folks on Instagram. Thank you for joining in so soon and with the questions. So it says, the Gabe says, I can never tell who's really a narcissist. It seems to be the office-friendly way of generalizing someone as an a-hole. Is there an honest, non-clinical way to identify true narcissistic people? And then he follows up with, as a jerk, how do you identify narcissism? Okay, we'll answer that one next. But
Okay.
so,
Yeah.
how can you tell? Like, how can you
So
tell?
you can tell, okay, so we all, based on society and social media, we all have narcissistic traits. So there's a difference between having narcissistic traits where everybody's into themselves and talking about themselves. We all have that kind of personality. But what makes a person without clinically being diagnosed as NPD, narcissistic personality disorder, is everything is revolved around them. Their life, when you talk, when you have a discussion, they have a sense of entitlement. They feel entitled to talk to you, relate to you, operate like everything has to be about them or around them. They don't have time to listen. They're empathically deficient. You have to look for, like, for example, you might say, oh, my puppy is sick or my cat is sick. And you're looking at and most of us would be like, oh, I'm sorry to hear that. There's no empathy when you see, there's no remorse when you're talking and relating to somebody that has narcissistic personality disorder. So without going around and getting them diagnosed, they are very deficient. They have no empathy.
Gotcha. And then his second question is, as a jerk, how do you identify narcissistic people in a non-clinical way? And you're kind of answering that right now,
Mhm.
correct? Because
Yeah, empathy.
before you move on with your story, because there's a difference in, like you just mentioned about the pet, like, oh, my pet is sick.
Hmm.
There, there's a difference between somebody who moves on from the conversation. It's like, okay, well, back to me. Like, yes,
Yes.
and somebody, can it be disguised in those people that are like, oh, I've been through something similar? Can that be a narcissistic disguise for people?
Narcissistic people don't really empathize. Everything they might be like, oh, like if they're trying to gain something from you, like in other words, because the supply means that there's something that they need from you. They
Okay,
might, in that moment in time, this is where we're going into covert narcissists, because there are four different type of narcissistic people, but they all have the same personality traits. And for the narcissist, if there's something that they actually need from you, they might pretend to have empathy. All of the nice, kind, beautiful characteristic traits we all have as human beings, a narcissist has to pretend to have them. They don't
gotcha,
really possess them.
gotcha. All right, and I'll let you continue with your with how you put it together.
Yeah. So some people are wondering about how I do self love and then the narcissist recovery and where tarot comes in. So before I was focusing on narcissist recovery coaching, about 5 years ago, I had a depressive time in my life. So at that time, networking and meeting people, I was very lucky to have a lady give me a tarot card deck. This is actually the deck that she gave me. And it's the beginner tarot deck for you to teach yourself and learn about tarot. So I studied it. I got obsessed with it to the point where now I'm a creator of my own two tarot card decks, Sacred Solomon Tarot, and I've minimalized the original Wider Rate Tarot, which is Sacred Soul Tarot, which is, Shop Sacred Soul Inside, which is the name of my company. So I use tarot card readings in my narcissist recovery to make me unique in this industry.
Okay. Um, when I started doing life coaching and spiritual coaching and combining them into transpersonal coaching, there was a lot of questions about the combination of, and I'll put this in terms that they were given to me, like how can you combine the logic and the woo-woo stuff? Um, how was that? How was that for you putting them both together?
So I'm able to put together because it starts with self love. For example, in tarot, we have a card called the Lover's card. Now, if you're going to focus on somebody to heal themselves after leaving a narcissist, everything about the readings of the cards have to do with, you have to reverse the card to reflect what can you do to love yourself. For example, lovers, you're no longer lovers. You're focusing on yourself. You're focusing on loving yourself. So the card is not going to be about a couple or a lover's relationship. It's about, as a person who needs to heal coming out of this tarot card called the Lover's card is something that we need to flip it around and make it mean something for you. And I've done that with the cards that I have created, my own tarot card decks.
Gotcha. Because when we're young and we
Mhm.
are being raised, as you mentioned in your life, and we're being raised by narcissistic parents. But
Mhm.
before we say that, it's not always just the parents, right? We can have
Yeah.
narcissistic siblings,
Yes.
grandparents,
Yeah.
uncles, aunts, whatever. It's that first ripple effect as we're
Yes.
growing up.
It's called the
So
narcissistic family structure.
okay, so the family structure. So let's say because it's whoever it is that is the narcissist in our lives.
Hmm.
Does the self love is it belittled because we are feeding into them as young people as children and we don't know any other way of doing?
Um,
Does that
when
make
you
sense?
are little, you learn to neglect yourself. You learn to neglect how you feel. You learn how to neglect your thoughts, your feelings, your emotions, and to overly give, which makes you codependent. And some people turn to be narcissistic. Unfortunately, their childhood trauma makes them a narcissist. And some people become empathic and overly give, which makes them attract narcissistic relationships. What the empath has to do is recognize and heal their codependency, because codependency is also a form of trauma, overly giving. But
Gotcha.
unfortunately, the narcissist takes your giving and exploits it and abuses it. The longer you stay in a narcissistic abusive relationship, the worse it gets because they don't change. They
And
get worse
because
as they age.
I'm sorry, and because we're not taught and we're not
Mhm.
given the tools to
Right.
defend ourselves,
Yeah.
we we start to figure. And correct me if I'm wrong. I'm just kind of
Mhm.
I'm bringing in all my
Yeah.
past
Yeah.
life into the conversation, because that's the only thing that we know is how to give to this
Yeah.
group of people,
Yeah.
and we think this is love.
Yeah.
Love love
Abuse is love.
is
Yeah.
love is
Mm-hmm.
love is the person that's in front of me. Let's say you and
Yeah.
I, Celeste, you and I are in a relationship. The
Mm-hmm.
only way that I know love is if
To
Celeste
give.
keeps taking from me
Yeah.
and I give him. Um, is there, and for everybody out there, please ask your questions and your
Yeah.
comments. We're welcome. But is there a kind of like a diagnosis for ourselves? Like sometimes
Mm-hmm.
we know we have a cold, so we do something about it.
Mm-hmm.
Is there symptoms that I can, as a self, as the narcissist,
Mm-hmm.
is um, again, you and I in a relationship. Are
Yeah.
there symptoms that I can recognize to say, wait a minute, I'm in a relationship with a narcissist. I need to
Mm-hmm.
step away, or does it take outside influences to tell me that that's going on?
No, a narcissist relationship is very one-sided.
Okay.
But because you are an empath and you are been brought up from your childhood conditioning or any kind of conditioning, you've been programmed somewhere in your young primary years, right? Whether it be 1 to 7 or whatever, you have been taught a conditioning that in order to love, you need to give. So you get caught up in a toxic cycle where you enter into a narcissistic relationship. And the narcissist uses a tool called love bombing. They say something to you to make you feel like you found your soulmate.
Oh,
So that's the first tool that a narcissist uses with their victims, a love bombing, something that they've said in their words that makes you feel like this is your soulmate. This is the person you want to spend the rest of your life with. But what they don't realize is the narcissist listens to you and mimics the things that you say and pretend to be that version of what you're looking for in a soulmate.
wow. Okay. Is that New Zealand? Is that what I'm looking at?
I
I
think
see.
so.
Is it? Okay, well, if it is, please
Well,
correct us if we're wrong, Sonia. Welcome to the show. Thank you. Please ask your question if you have a question.
yeah.
So, as the okay, so let me. Is there a term for the person involved with the narcissist?
Well, the only term that you can, they're called the victim because you are the victim of the love bombing which is a tool that the narcissist uses on their victims. You see, the
Okay.
narcissist has a mask that they put on. It's a facade. They have to pretend to look and feel like this person is going to love me, is going to care for me, and they're in a partnership. But the one thing you don't realize is after you have made that commitment and you've gotten married to the person, now they've taken off that pretended mask of being that loving, caring, compassionate soulmate or partner. And now the mask comes off and you see Dracula, you actually see the devil,
Oh, okay.
right? And they start to discard you, they start to criticize you. All of these personality traits that they were attracted to, they start making fun of you, right? And you start seeing that they actually are envious and jealous of you. Narcissistic people are envious and jealous of their partner,
Gotcha.
right?
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I'm looking at relationships in my past. You just brought up like 25 years of relationships in my life, and I'm analyzing every one of my exes.
Yeah.
Uh, is it like, are we magnets? I mean, you said we attract them, but like,
You attract them because you see, what the empath doesn't realize is that you are looking for outside validation for someone to accept you, to be loved. But the narcissist teaches you that you cannot rely on me to love you because I am here to destroy you. I am going to eventually destroy you. The longer you stay with me, I have no choice but to destroy you. I talk to you, I criticize you, I am rude to you, I am disrespectful to you, right? Some situations where people live together, it's like you're living with a child. A partner that has children with a narcissist, you are a single parent living with a narcissist. They don't take responsibility for parenting. They're not in a relationship the way a normal, healthy, functional relationship should operate, like a partnership. Okay, so you get home first, you cook the food. Okay, so I'm going to do the chores. A partnership. The only thing a narcissist might commit to in a relationship is get up in the morning and go to work, but they might come home. If it's a husband that's a narcissist, he turns around to comes home to play video games. Dad, I want to play. Let's play, Daddy. Let's play. And he'll just ignore his kids. But then when there's people around, he's going to display and act the role as a father, because there are people who don't live with him, who's going to pretend to be this. Oh, I'm a loving dad.
Gotcha. Is narcissism, and I know this is not the way the question.
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna say, is it, in our genes? Is it cultural? Is it religious? Social
That's a good
norms?
question. That's a good question. We do live in a narcissism society, right? Due to social media and internet and online presence, everything is me, selfies, and all that kind of stuff. But those are narcissistic traits. The difference between a person that have narcissistic traits, me, or self-centeredness, like a child's brain fully develops at the age of 25. So when children are immature, they're going to possess narcissistic traits. They're going to be self-centered. A lot of us are self-centered. But what makes a person a full-blown narcissist that is destructive emotionally is the person who they call family. They are manipulating, dominating, controlling. They criticize you, the gaslighting, creating self-doubt, causing mental insanity, questioning your identity, losing your identity inside of a relationship, not understanding who you were, not feeling like you're authentic, walking on eggshells inside of the relationship, not being able to comfortably express your emotions, to feel heard, to validate your feelings, your thoughts, your emotions. All of those things are gone when you're inside of a narcissistic abusive relationship.
Yeah, because we have this comment here. Good morning. I lived in 15 years married. My previous husband was a narcissist. I'm not free and aware. Congratulations, Micah. Micah's a good friend of mine. So it's not immediate. And I'm going to say this one first. Sonia, who in his spiritual guidance advice from me. I think you just came into the right show for the right conversation. So stick around, Sonia. We might just have some divine message for you that's hidden in the show. So stay tuned. And I say this because, for instance, in the Latino community,
Mm-hmm.
the machismo culture
Mm-hmm.
feeds into narcissism.
Yes.
And when you're growing up, you
Mm-hmm.
see it as a normal. Like,
Yeah.
my dad, like you said, my dad comes home, grabs a beer, sits down and watches TV or works on his car, and mom gets home from work and does everything else. And
Yes.
which is kind of confusing. I'll say this as a gay man. So just a gay man growing up, I was like,
Mm-hmm.
well, wait a minute. I'm a man, so I should
Mm-hmm.
do what my dad does.
Yeah.
But I'm gay, so should I do what my mom does? So does the world send us mixed messages sometimes
Yeah.
as to where we fall? And then
Mm-hmm.
the second part of the question is, are we all just a little bit narcissistic?
We are all a little bit narcissistic, meaning we all have narcissistic traits. We all have a little bit of self-centeredness. Me, I want to talk about me, especially being self-employed. Entrepreneurs have a little bit of narcissistic tendencies. They want to talk about themselves and not hear about anyone else, only their business, right? So that is narcissism, right?
Yes. Boom, that just hit me on the head. But
So, how do you, in order to balance that, to make yourself not be a person that falls into those characteristic traits, be open to listening and having empathy and open to hearing other people's point of views. Then you kind of balance out the narcissistic traits.
Gotcha.
right? Like the other day, as business people are always networking and meeting other entrepreneurs. And I spoke for 30 minutes with this gentleman, and he spoke about himself, and I answered all his questions. And I showed a lot of interest in him, but not once did he ask me anything about me. So that's a little bit of a red flag for me.
Ah,
Yeah. You should be open to hearing other people's opinions and insights, especially as entrepreneurs.
yeah. But I agree with you. There's, particularly when you work for yourself and you're starting
Mhm.
your own business, and your identity is so fleshed into,
Self-centered.
yeah, what you do is like you do your best to not show up and be like, "Hi, I'm Daniel Garza. I own a business.
Yeah.
Let me tell you about it." You try not to be I don't know if this term is, but
Well, no,
I try not
you
to be a
learn.
salesman. Like
Yeah, you learn that it's not. I had to learn that myself as well, being an entrepreneur. That I have done I learned to do the reverse. I listen to people now. I let people talk first because it's a way for you to train you. We're so self-absorbed in the society that we live in, right? So because we live in such a self-absorbed environment, people actually appreciate it when you allow them to speak first, listen to them first. And it's just a way of training your characteristics. You will get a chance to talk about and share and say what you do, but you need to be a person that listens and that has the characteristic traits to hear people out first. If you don't want to fall into the narcissistic personality trait.
yeah, I've learned over time to not ask the "what do you do" question, like "what do you do for a
Yeah,
living," like, because that always leads to me now
yeah,
saying, "Well, let me tell you what I do,"
yeah,
and it's a setup. Like I'm
yes,
pretending to think about you, but
yeah,
I want you to ask me what I do so I can tell you
yeah,
about
yeah,
me.
yeah,
So
yeah,
I try to not ask people anymore, like, "What do
yeah,
you do for a living," or the ever popular, "What do you drive?
yes.
Where do you live? How much do you like?" But okay, so as we're coming into the half hour of the show,
Hmm.
how does spirituality, energy work, tarot, how did that come to work in helping people find their self love?
So, because narcissistic abuse is when a person chooses to leave, they take your soul. So, what do I mean by they take their soul? It's a type of abuse where a person has lost their identity, and they feel like their soul has been broken down, right? So,
Okay.
what do I mean by that? So, because their soul has been broken down, and tarot, which is a divination tool, which is connected to spirit, that's where I decided to implement my tarot readings into narcissist recovery so that I can give people who are open to healing themselves on a deep cellular level to get some tarot spiritual insights on how they can recover from coming out of narcissistic abuse from a spiritual perspective.
Gotcha. Um, as you were developing your own cards, how deep did you go into yourself? And does that make sense? Because when I
Yeah.
was developing my cards, I was like, okay, so here we go again, talking about myself. But as I was doing my cards, and that's one thing that brought us together. By the way, folks, it's not being narcissistic. This is me being a host. But one of the things that we coincided on, one of the things we had in common is that we both created our own decks.
Yeah.
And but I really had to go deep inside myself and go, what is it that I want to heal
Hmm.
in order to help other people heal? Does that make sense to you?
Yes. Yes.
And how did that work for you?
So, for example, I have my like the solo mom deck. And for example, in the first tarot card deck called the Fool means free spirit, new beginnings. All right. So my tarot card deck, it says for solo moms, but it's actually really it's just a female, like it's designed for women, right? Um, I put free spirit because you are a free spirit when you step into the unknown, step into the the get out of your comfort zone, whatever, stuff like that. When you decide to go out into the world and go against living in the matrix and decide to turn to self-employment or follow your own passion, things like that. You are a free spirit, right? You're a
Yeah.
free soul. So those are the things that I think about. What is the message and the meaning behind these tarot cards? And how can I use healing words? Because I actually looked towards healing words, like moving forward. I don't know if you can actually see the card, but,
Yeah.
new feelings and spiritual growth. If something has to do with a couple, then I would put like soul connections,
Okay.
always some kind of a spiritual meaning. I even have like holistic healing, right? So those are how I tapped into, because I have a holistic health background, to focus on healing words and connected them to tarot for self-love.
There's something interesting in one of the cards, like new healing and spiritual growth.
Yeah.
Um, can we talk about that for a little bit? Because
Sure.
most folks, for instance, clients that I have, when
Mm-hmm.
they come to do something about where they want to heal themselves, find their
Mm-hmm.
self-love,
Yeah.
many folks feel like, okay, as soon as I do this work, as soon as I go and do a session, get a life coach, a spiritual coach, poof, everything's going to be just awesome. As soon as I'm done, everything's going to get fixed. And as Celeste smiles, but can you talk to a little bit to folks about the shifting of energy when we let go of those? Because this
Mm-hmm.
self-love, when it comes to narcissism, we get used to the uncomfortableness, is the way that I see it,
Yeah.
correct?
You have to get uncomfortable to get comfortable.
So can you talk a little bit about the process that you've seen or the way that you work when
Mm-hmm.
people
Sure.
let go of that energy to find themselves?
You have to let go of, you have to stop feeding power. There's something called this word called power. And the only time you're going to free yourself after you have left and come out of the narcissist, and it takes time because it depends on how long some people have been in each relationship. You have to give power back to yourself, and you have to take baby steps to give power back to yourself. One of the ways for you to take and give power back to yourself is to let go of the idea of what you thought you had. You have to radically accept that you went into a situation and that the person did not relate to you or was in a relationship with you with the same authenticity that you came into the relationship for. And if you don't fully radically accept that, it's going to be hard for you to heal. You have to accept the unacceptable.
Wow. Okay, that you're just throwing like bombs at me this whole session. You have to let go of what you thought you had.
Yeah.
That is kind of heavy because yes, we go into a relationship,
Mm-hmm.
and once you make that commitment,
Yeah.
there's this expectation, which is a
Mm-hmm.
first mistake. I always feel like
Yeah.
going through a relationship, whether it be personal or professional, with the level of expectation,
Mm-hmm.
9 out of 10 you're going to be let down because it's
Yeah.
not going to match what you want, right?
Yeah.
And and then you're in this relationship and you think you're building
Something
this.
with someone. Mm-hmm.
You're like, my sandcastle is
Yeah.
going to last,
Yeah.
and then over time something is going to crumble. It has to, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, from your experience working with clients,
Mm-hmm.
how hard is the fall, and how difficult is the rebuild?
So one client I finished working with, I actually have one more session with her. She is struggling with self-love. So the clients who are going to have a really hard time, she's obsessed with somebody who has made it's very clear. I've done the readings for her, everything, that he is a narcissist. And it's very clear. And then she'll text me again, and she's obsessed with him. I actually had to give her a book called Love Addiction or something like that. She is a codependent addiction holic, is a name that I just made up. And it
Wow.
simply means that there are just some people who are addicted to wanting to give love, even if it means giving love to the wrong person. He's proposing to someone else. It came out in my reading that he's proposing to someone else. She's not happy about it, but she still wants to have him. And I turned to her and I said, Do you want to have authentic, true love to enter your life? She said, yes, of course. I said, in order for you to attract true, authentic love to enter your life, you have to first focus on yourself. You are obsessed with somebody that just wants to take advantage and use you. Why are you obsessed with somebody who clearly is not into you? They want to have you or use you when it's convenient for them, and it's very clear. So unless the person is not willing to do the work to focus on healing themselves, they will always attract toxic and narcissistic abusive relationships.
For the victim, is there some kind of savior complex that, how we get into relations like, I can change them. I'm going to be the
There's
one
no
that's going.
changing a narcissist.
But do
You
you
can only
understand?
change
Like,
yourself. Yeah, you can
some,
change yourself from the way from attracting these kinds of toxic relationship, because you're the one that has to change. And you say that's not fair, but the narcissist is toxic. Yes, the narcissist is toxic, but the narcissist is toxic, mirroring back to you, get away from me and go love yourself for once. That's what they are mirroring back to you. You have to wake up and smell the coffee and say, okay, you're going to get more abusive the longer I stay with you. Okay, I'm going to do it. It's not going to be easy. I know I'm going to cry, this, that, whatever, but you're telling me to love myself. Okay, I get it.
yeah, yeah. Because I'm remembering like my early relationships in my 20s
Yeah.
that were, because I was so inexperienced in a
Mm-hmm.
relationship, and because I saw it well, growing up,
Mm-hmm.
my examples of relationships were narcissistic. So I
Yeah.
thought that's the way relationships should be. And then you give, and you're like, well, where's my part?
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
when it doesn't come to you, the destruction comes in.
Mm-hmm.
How does addictions and self-destruction come into play?
So addictions and self-destructions come into play. For example, as little kids, sometimes we get rewarded with ice cream.
Hmm.
Sometimes we need to numb our pain or numb our emotions. So it's all of that's developed during childhood in order for us to deal with the discomfort of the trauma we're going through. Right. So let's, for example, a friend of mine has a partner that's he deals with substance abuse, like he drinks. And when I did a session with her, I realized that he was stuck. Something happened to him at 18 years old, and he turned to drinking to numb his pain. So he's not 50, he's really 18 years old. And he's stuck at 18 years old, and he's always going to be 18 years old. So we develop addictions and all these different things based on the discomfort of what we're experiencing in our childhood to overcome uncomfortable experiences.
Wow. And then just to tie that in, because I come from the recovery AA side, I've been 17 years clean and sober. And when I was going through rehab, thank you, when I was going through rehab, um, they one of the things they told us was you stopped growing mentally
Mm-hmm.
when your addiction started. And I believe that I always had
Mm-hmm.
some addiction. But when I started drinking and doing drugs, my mind stopped there, which was at 17,
Mm-hmm.
and then at 20 doing drugs. So when you come out of the addiction, which
Mm-hmm.
was 16 years later,
Mm-hmm.
then I started growing.
Yeah.
And but that makes sense because
Mm-hmm.
even after recovery, even after rehab, I was still searching the same type of partners that I had before. And it took a
Mm-hmm.
while. It took a while to
Yes.
be like, okay, I can't be in that anymore. I can't be toxic
Right.
anymore. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Um,
And you're lucky that you're somebody that embraced wanting to grow and to heal yourself. And unfortunately, when it comes to people who have NPD disorder, they're stuck in whatever age they experienced the worst trauma, and they didn't want to feel that kind of pain or that kind of discomfort. So they decided to, I'm going to live my life pretending, not feeling. They actually have their inner child, the term called inner child, meaning the parts of us that our childhood when we were a kid that's wounded. The narcissist has locked their inner child in prison for the rest of their life. They never embrace and heal their inner child. And that's
Wow.
another reason why they will never grow and heal, and why they can't fix and why they'll never change.
So for the people, and we don't want to scare anybody out. If you're single and want to go date, please don't let us scare you from dating anybody or ever meeting anybody new in your life.
Yeah.
But is there some superpower force field that those of us that have been victims before we can use to not be victims again?
So, in order for you to stop being a person that's a magnet for attracting narcissistic abuse, you have to understand when you decide to go into the dating world, first make sure you've done your healing work. Like you've done your inner healing child work, you have focused on your mother wound, father wound, whatever wounds or scars you have that you feel that you need to grow and not be triggered by those things anymore. You focused on healing that first. Then the second part is when you are choosing to go dating, I have something called love bomb prevention coaching. It simply means that if I come to you and you and I develop a chemistry, for example, let's say you want to travel one day and I enter your life and I say, I want to travel with you all over the world and I never want to leave your side and I want us to travel the world together. Is that something that you're going to do for yourself? Because that is a love bombing tactic. You've just gotten yourself into a love bombing tactic. So what I say to clients is get a list of all the things that you love. And if somebody was to enter your life and said that to you, you would be wobbly and they would be able to hook you. So you have to focus on all the things that if somebody entered your life for soulmate or partner, you might get those things and write them out to yourself. In other words, focus on back on self-love to yourself. Can you travel around the world by yourself and enjoy your life? Yes, you can.
Yeah.
You don't need a partner to do that for you.
I think of that as like the Aladdin syndrome. It's like, I can show you the world. And you're like, yes, let's go on this magic carpet and go and fly until you discover that they're not exactly who they say they were.
Yeah.
And now you're in this relationship. This is all like, okay, first of all, as I said in the beginning, I felt like I was going to go into a therapy session, which totally was. I'm going to sit down after the meeting and just like redefine every relationship I've ever had. Where am I? But let's look at the light,
the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yes, the light, the lining in the cloud, the silver lining in the clouds. Once you've done some work, once you've reached out to Celeste and done some work, what can a former victim look forward to in relationships?
First, trusting yourself. That's number one. Before you think about or anything when it comes to any kind of relationship, friendship, business, anything, you first have to trust yourself. Trust that you now have gained the tools to know that you are worth. You have to feel that in your gut, that you are worth a relationship that is reciprocal. You give, you get back. You deserve respect, you give respect, you get respect. Now we're all have different challenges, right? Even a healthy relationship, but you're no longer in a situation where you think or your self-worth is no longer in a place where you are hungry to give because you're only setting yourself up to attract a narcissist again. You expect to give and to receive a reciprocal relationship.
Pardon me. Yeah, sorry. And I think you've mentioned it throughout the show. It's like finding yourself first. Like what do I? And it's not. And again, going back to like culture, then a lot of us in different cultures were raised to don't think about yourself. It's not about you. Like your happiness is last on the list. Think about everybody else, and the psychology of that, like sitting down and being like, okay, I've got to look at myself first, and that's important. So yeah. So for everybody watching, we are 45 minutes into the show. We're almost at the last of the show. Please post your questions if you have more questions. But we're at the part of the show where, not that you haven't throughout the whole show, but Celeste London, what words of wisdom do you have for the people watching?
So, the words of wisdom that I have for you, if you have recently left a narcissist, get ready to go through some very uncomfortable emotions. That's part of your healing. You will go through grief, you will go through loss, you will go through anger, you will have rage, you will ruminate. Why did I allow somebody to treat me like cookie crumbs or breadcrumbs? And again, you have to tie it back and dive deep into your conditioning. At what age and at what time in your life did you learn that you have to sacrifice to the point of neglecting yourself in order to love? Right?
Yes.
The second thing is you have to know that there is a light after the dark tunnel, but you have to take the time to do the work. There are other gurus in my industries that say that you need to take a minimum of 12 months to focus on your own healing before you can even think about going into the dating world to revisit that part of yourself again. Unfortunately, some victims never choose to want to be in a relationship again because they can't believe a human being is that destructive, unfortunately, right? But it's important for you throughout that experience, that awakening of emotional destruction where somebody has left, taken your identity, and you feel like you have no soul left, but you're trying to rebuild yourself back up again, to focus and take time for your own healing.
I just had to post that right here. At what age did you learn to sacrifice your feelings and emotions? I thought that was like, poof, everybody, you have homework before the end of the year. You have homework now. Do not come to us next year and just be like, I'm still in that relationship. No, you have homework now. So you can, let me show, wow, they just blew my mind right now. Let me show people where they can find you. So this is your website link, but let's show them your website so people can walk us through it a little bit. So this is you. What can people look for in your website?
So I have a 12-month coaching program for people who have left a narcissistic abusive relationship and they're ready to do the work that what it takes to heal from having and coming out of that experience. Right? So when you scroll down, there's 12 different stages. You're going to receive empowerment. If you scroll down a little bit to the benefits of getting into the program is the empowerment that you're going to gain, the emotional healing. You're going to receive clarity. The clarity comes from why you actually attracted that experience into your life in the first place. And then the resiliency at the end, where you're going to come out now that you have received clarity to bounce back being resilient.
Gotcha. And these
are the 12 different components that you receive each month of the what you have to focus on healing within that month.
Gotcha. And then we continue. There's your deck of cards. This is all about you. So you guys folks can go back and read more about Celeste. Here are some of the testimonials that you can read. This is how to connect. So you can join now and connect with her. There's her email address. And then you can find her on all her all the standard social media pages, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram, along with a phone number for questions and an email. Let me take this away and there you go. Here is the Instagram page in case you want to go find her. Shop Sacred Soul Insight on Instagram, or if you want to find her on TikTok, it's Shop Sacred Soul Insight, and you can find her and follow her. Also, and again, if you are on, if you happen to be on Alignable, look her up and connect with her there. For those of you, I was part of Alignable. Well, I still am. I was part of the Alignable groups for a long time. So some of you know me from there. But go find her and connect with her there. We have about 10 minutes to go. We started the story today about your own personal story and how you grew up. Where are you now in your path in disconnecting from those energies?
In terms of my family life or personal life or working
Yeah,
with,
yeah. You're talking about your parents and that connection.
I've always been the black sheep and I'm comfortable. The black sheep meaning that I've always been, if somebody throws you out of the house at 15 years old, I thought
Wow.
that, I always wanted to be loved, but I have come to accept that I was never loved as a child by both of my parents. And I have cried over that. I've grieved the loss over that. I'm at a stage now where I grieve the loss of living parents, not being able to have an authentic, emotionally genuine, connected relationship with them, both of my parents.
Wow. That's yeah. That I think for a lot of us, we don't really discover um, the narcissistic relationship that was formed until they're passing or they're no longer around us.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can sit back and go, oh, wait a minute. Like, and the patterns that follow through,
Mm-hmm.
that's really heavy. How coming from that type of relationship, how do you check yourself, or do you have a checklist to go, okay, as I'm going into new relationships, whether they be personal, professional, intimate or not, how do you have a mental checklist that you're like, okay, let me make sure that I don't become the narcissist in that relationship?
Well, I did conscious parenting therapy,
Okay.
right? And this is something that I learned on social media. So it's self awareness and emotional intelligence. So, how to tell if somebody is authentic. So, if they lack accountability, they shift the blame. If they lack communication skills, they like to see you arguing. If they lack emotional intelligence, they're going to call you sensitive. So, I do a checklist where I do some self reflection with myself, because I'm a solo parent, so I had narcissistic traits as a single mom. And because of my therapy that I have done, parenting therapy, conscious parenting, I wasn't validating my children's emotions or feelings,
Mm.
which kind of sets your child up to become a narcissist. So once you recognize that, obviously I did a lot of apologizing. I sit down, I have family meetings. My youngest child is 11, he's a boy. And so I give the love that I never received now to my kids.
Gotcha. That that's good to know, because we don't want to fall in the patterns, and sometimes I feel like you have to step back and go, okay, let me check myself. Let me make sure that I am not doing what was done to me, and then continue that chain of emotions or
Mhm.
feelings.
It's called the cycle breaker. You have to become the cycle breaker because when you come from a family dynamic where both sides of the family have narcissism in them, and then you were thrown out as a child at a young and tender age, and your whole life has been a series of attracting one narcissist after the next, you I should be a narcissist, right? But um, because I'm open to therapy, I'm open to growing, I'm open to changing. I've always been that. I went to study holistic nutrition in my 20s, right? Next year, I'm 50 years old.
Wow.
So I've always wanted to grow and heal, and I've always been interested in that. I've always been interested in different cultures, I've always been open. And if you are a person that is open, then healing is something that you're able to access. If you're closed off, then you're kind of gone into the narcissistic side.
Yeah, I think that's, you just like, the perfect ending to the show is, you've got to want it. You've got
Yeah.
to be able to want it. The old refrain, like, you can't lead a horse to, I mean, you can lead a horse to water.
Hmm. Hmm.
And no matter how many people come up to you and say, you are in this type of relationship, like, wake up. If you don't want to wake up, you won't do it. So it's interesting, because I was watching, side note for everybody, I was watching some video where they were breaking down Sex and the City show,
Yeah,
and how narcissistic that show was, and
it
Carrie
is.
Bradshaw, how narcissistic Carrie Bradshaw was. And I'm like, and I responded in the video, I'm like, but that's what we loved her, because
Yeah,
she was that problematic friend that we
yeah.
all had. We used to, you watched her on Sundays completely break down which gave you permission to go, okay, my life is not that messed up. I'm
Yeah.
doing okay. But for anybody who wants to see actual narcissistics on TV, go
Mhm.
watch Sex and the City. That is
Yeah,
completely dealt
yeah.
with it.
Big
But
narcissistic show.
so before we go, any New Year's goals, resolutions? What are your hopes for the new year?
My hopes for the new year is to help as many people become resilient after leaving and choosing, having the courage to leave and come out of a narc, because you need to celebrate yourself. I know it doesn't feel that way after you come out because a lot of healing has to be done. But you choose me to work with me to be your coach. I'll make sure if you do the work, you will become resilient again and be unstoppable and unbreakable.
I love that. All right. So for everybody interested, and let me, you're up in Canada, correct?
Yes, Toronto, Canada.
Hello to all our friends up in Canada. We have a lot of friends from
Yes.
Canada that watch the show. So check her out. This is her website. Start the new year making some changes in your life. And we're going to say goodbye to you for now. I'm going to put you in the green room, but don't go anywhere. I want to talk to you before we hang up. But thank you so much for being on the show. And thank you for being
Thank you for having me.
my holiday guest.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure we're going to have you back again so we can continue talking about this.
Thank you.
So I'm going to put you in the green room for a second while I say goodbye to everybody.
Okay,
Just a
no
second.
problem.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
For everybody watching, thank you so much for being part of the show. Thank you for watching us this year. I'm going to give you some information for next year. Remember, if you're looking for mediumship work, check out my partner, Christian Ramirez. There is his phone number and email. Check him out. If you're looking for transpersonal coaching, check out my program, The Alignment. Go visit thealignment.net for more information. And remember, starting next Monday, we'll be back with the Crab and Goat Show, which is our, we'll be doing Wayne's messages, spiritual messages, my alignment session, and card readings. Join us for a 90-minute show. On Wednesdays, the Kristen and Danny Show, we won't be back till January, so mark your calendars and then put it together. We'll be back at the end of January, so make sure you stay tuned for that. I still have, if you like, Grumpy Bunny in the Colors Game. It's available on my website, so go check out littlemexicanproductions.com/Grumpy Bunny. They're $20 signed and delivered. So if you give me the names of who you're giving it to, we'll make sure we sign them. They come with a special edition pin and sticker, and $20 each. These are guided meditations book for children. So make sure that you check those out. For now, I want to thank you all. Please have a wonderful, happy new year. Be safe, and come back and join us next year for even more shows. For now, this is Daniel G. Garza saying, hey, put it together. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.